public parks. Those were, all of them were unpaid projects. I never got paid for them. But I wanted to do them nonetheless. So I kind of got in touch with the municipal corporation and gave them a lot of support in doing some public parks in Ahmedabad that time. And it kind of pulled me into doing, that time the BRTS was going on, and it pulled me into doing the streetscape. I had never done streetscape in my life before. I did not understand what is streetscape, but I thought that it is not a bad idea to let people walk under the shade of the tree. So that's how my journey there started. And eventually I moved, I kind of got more and more interested into public space design, into urban mobility, and looking at how landscape can actually play a very important part in the urban mobility place, and in the placemaking particularly. So it was actually going from only looking at plants, but also looking at um, how urban scape or how urban design actually interacts with landscape. And then I actually worked a lot in Delhi, particularly in Dwarka. We started with the DDA. I had an understanding, and I was kind of connected with DDA as an advisor. And then eventually I moved to Jammu and Kashmir. I got a very good opportunity to serve the people of Jammu and Kashmir by being the advisor to the government there. And I served there for 2 years. We did a lot of projects which were kind of cross-cutting between urban mobility, urban landscape, transportation design, transportation planning, urban planning, all of that. So a very interesting kind of work profile there. Uh, of course, in all of these, one of the important aspects that we were talking about was, some of them were low-hanging fruits and some of them were long-term projects. So how some of the low-hanging fruits can actually represent what we want to do, or what big strides we want to take in the urban mobility sector. So that is kind of the place where I've been working on, and now I'm back in Delhi. I'm kind of now part of the Isola Delhi, moved from Isola Ahmedabad, uh, and in Delhi I'm kind of very keenly working with the Ministry of Home Affairs, giving them advice on how the sustainable mobility uh, can be implemented for the city of Delhi. Very keenly kind of looking at a lot of projects, a lot of initiatives which can be implemented for the city of Delhi. So that's really the background I have, and I'm now kind of I'm thankful to Aditya that he invited me to for this talk. I'm very excited about giving this talk because I think this is an important place where landscape architects can make a very big difference. And I think landscape architects have not really kind of moved into public space design very actively in our country. And it would be fantastic to have more and more landscape architects kind of, working with the government, working in public space design, and giving some best of their ability, best of their creative efforts into this. So this would be fantastic for not just us as a community, but the students and everybody. So I really hope that this presentation can excite you to join hands with the government and do something for the city. So yes, I can start now. Thank you so much. I'll start now. I'll try to share the screen. Let me see.
Meanwhile, Anuj, if you can just tell everyone that this is going to be in two parts, and this is introductory, and the next thing is more of a kind of a working session,
Okay,
something on that.
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me. Um, how do I get into the presentation mode? I'm sorry, just a minute. Uh, how do I go into? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to see if it can become a
I think
presentation.
you have to
Like
hit
we
the
all.
play
Okay.
button. Just hit the play button.
Yes, yes, yes. Correct, correct. Present to the meeting. Present on this device. Okay. Yeah. Oh, how do I go back? Okay, right. All right. I think now we're set. So this is a two-part uh, engagement. One is this presentation, which I'm going to sort of give you, and the other part is a site visit that we have planned for Karol Bagh, where main intervention, that is my main intervention area, which we have worked with a large team of people. So it would be very interesting to see, although there are some changes which I'm going to also talk about at the end of this presentation, but that is slated for the next Saturday. So I'll now go to this presentation. So tactical method is actually a low cost, quick method, and how it can deliver walkability at scale in Delhi. This is something that I also presented to the Ministry of Urban Development, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs recently. And this is part of that. So the mantra of doing a tactical method is actually we take more time to plan, but very less time to implement. Uh, So I'll just start with how this journey had begun for me. In 2014, in Ahmedabad, we had done with the traffic police. We were thinking that the place where we started was uh, that our traffic junctions are actually quite a mess in terms of design, and actually that design places a huge amount of management effort on the police. So it's very easy that we easily kind of blame the police for not managing traffic, but actually a lot of it actually depends on design and the way the traffic junction is kind of overlaid, which makes the task of the police very difficult or easy. So we had started with that in mind. We had not known that we are going to do something big later, but this is a very simple thing we had started with as an idea that can this junction, what you see on the screen, can it become better so that the traffic police finds it easy to manage? That's one, obviously. And the second most important thing is, can the pedestrians find it very, very safe to be there? I mean, does it have to be like so overwhelming with a lot of vehicles, or can the pedestrians also find a refuge or a place to for them in the junction? So what we did was we this is the previous how it used to look, and this is how we changed it. Now you can see that when we changed it, what did we use? We used tuna which is lime, and we used bollards, the red bollards that you see, and we just placed them. That's all we did. So only lime and the bollards, uh, and that created magic for a lot of people here. Uh, Yeah, you can see that bus turning in the left lane, and you can see how much space there was in the left lane earlier. Whether that space was required is the question, because now how you see the bus turning, the bus can easily take a turn without, hitting any bollard. So that much space was released from the road and given to the pedestrians. Unfortunately, the green island that you see, which we called as Landscape Island, we are very fond of doing landscapes at the wrong places. So this is a traffic refuge, and this is not a place for doing such kind of landscape which blocks the place. for the pedestrian movement. So our landscape, if we want to do, should not block the actual path of movement. And you can see those two lines of zebra crossing, you know, the vertical line and the diagonal line. You can see that they can't meet because there is a landscaped area in the middle. However, if we had left that movement path free, and the rest of the area, if we could have landscape, that is still an okay landscape to actually do. Although that also, I would feel that, you know, you should have space to spread out a little if you want to. So anyways, the point being that the movement paths should not be blocked, and any landscape which blocks the movement path is also not a good landscape. So so basically now we had given this much area. You can see near the building also there was a space which we had carved out for more pedestrians, like your footpath can actually become wider. So this was how it was before. You can see that there are two lanes of active traffic, then there's a third lane and there's a fourth lane. The fourth lane was parking. And this is what we did. We actually, you know, the first two lanes we kept for traffic. The third lane we converted into parallel parking. So the parking, which is usually on the edge of the road, we brought it, you know, a little towards the road. And the third lane we gave into parking. Now, automatically, this much pedestrian space was released from the road itself. Now, obvious question is, did it lead to traffic jams? No, it did not lead to any traffic jam. Okay, in spite of the reduction. Why? Because we had already over provided the road space. That's why. And this guy, and lot of such people who actually cycle in this area suddenly found that it was easier to cycle in this space rather than, you know, being on the road. So we did not design any cycle track, but the cyclists actually found their place inside. And if you look at the queuing of the vehicles, actually, this is the first time that we also saw queuing in Ahmedabad. We have never seen you know, vehicles queue up nicely, but it happened because the extra space where the vehicles used to crowd, we had cordoned it off and given it to the pedestrians. And the refuge is where people could actually cross half of the road and then wait and then cross another half of the road. The refuge area was also extended. So this was what the intervention, it was very exciting. I did not put the slide, I should have put the slide of the traffic. So there was this traffic inspector who had worked with me, the assistant commissioner to police. He was working with me and he made a presentation to his commissioner of police. Saying that, sir, there was a longer queue lengths than before, but the refresh rate of the vehicles had increased, had decreased. So basically, the waiting time at the intersections had actually decreased by doing this intervention, in spite of giving a road diet, in spite of reducing space for vehicles. So that was very, very, very interesting. Then in 2016, I was part of the task force on the urban development fund with the MOHUA. That at that time it was the MOUD, and there again we started looking at these kind of interventions which can quickly transform junctions. Now, obviously, the whole intervention, the whole you know, execution of any junction takes time. It's not an easy task to actually implement, but if we can do it quickly by a simple method, so that at least the pedestrians can have a better place on the street. Now, this is how the junction was, or you can still say it is actually still like that. We wanted to convert. We did the tactical method, applied the tactical method to actually do this kind of junction. Obviously, now in the night time is where we can work because it's impossible. So these are all the people, and you know, we started working in the night. You can't see if you can make out the lines. Can you make out the lines? The white lines, if you can see.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, it was very difficult for us to implement this junction because we were only three people painting this entire place, and this place, this particular project, we actually got a little less support than we had expected. So it was a very difficult affair to kind of paint this throughout the night and still maintain the lines true to the straightness, true the curves, true to their curvature. It was all done manually, by doing by holding a thread at the corner, then drawing the circle, and just a very rudimentary method of doing things, not very technical. We didn't have instruments, so done by hand. And I could not actually paint the zebra, so you can't actually see the zebra. You can obviously see the two lines, and that is the place where the zebra is supposed to be. I'll show you in the next picture. Yeah. So this picture is important. Why? Because generally there's a general feeling across cities, across police departments, that the wider the junction, the better turn a big vehicle can take. And that's a complete misnomer. So what does the turn actually depend on? Let's see. So the turn depends on the turning radius of the vehicle, not on the junction width. Okay. So the turning radius of the vehicle is the front wheel of the bus makes a 13-meter turn, and the rear wheel of the bus makes a 7-meter turn. So the maximum turning radius that a bus needs is a 13-meter. And when you are turning from from the lane in the front to this lane, you are able to get at least, the minimum that you get is at least 17 meters. So even if you make the road diet, your bus can still turn, because that's all it needs. You don't need a 25, 30, or 40-meter radius to turn a 13-meter radius. So, this picture, this series of pictures are important to tell that in spite of the road diet, you're actually not making it worse for the vehicles, because the vehicles can still turn. It is well inside their turning radius. If some of us have been to London, or you've been to Hong Kong, uh, you will remember how narrow the roads are. And in those narrow roads, double-decker buses take those big turns. And that is the same turning radius that we have in our buses. So even on those very, very narrow roads, which are in fact 6 meters or even lesser than that, the buses are actually able to make those turns. So it's not about reducing the width so much that the buses can't, but obviously this should follow a technical method of providing space, and therefore the extra space is released. Now you can see the people crossing. Obviously, I told you that I could not draw the zebra, but you can see the people.
Anuj, hello.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
There is a software called Auto Turn.
That's right.
Have you ever tried using that to determine?
I have. Yes, we have used it in our Ambala project. That's right.
That gives you very ready solutions to the turning radii that you are describing now.
That's right.
Okay.
And at that time in 2016, I was not having access to those softwares, but we used it in 2018 when we got access to them. I used it in my Ambala project. But the principles remain the same still. I mean, of course, the software helped us very quickly to design it, but our principles did not really change. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And I just wanted to, yes, then it got into the newspapers.
One more point, Anuj, that
please.
Many times architects, landscape architects take a lot of liberties to change road geometries, which actually need to be studied by traffic engineers, or road engineers particularly.
Right.
Because I don't think we as landscape architects, we are adequately trained in schools. Here in schools, I don't see any school teaching this kind of landscape engineering subjects.
Uh, yeah, that's a good point, sir. I would, yes, I did not go on the road without training. That's true. Landscape architects do not generally have that access to that education. But yes, in my case, I did it voluntarily. I was part of a non-profit organization which was only about mobility, and therefore I got my lessons there, my initial lessons there, and eventually I got in touch with a lot of experts who actually taught me how to design a junction. So I did had my learning curve, and only then we got onto the road with confidence to do these things. But
Okay,
yes,
that
you are right.
explains. That
Yeah,
explains.
that
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, I did not mention it. I was part of one of the organizations called ITDP, and there we used to regularly have a lot of international experts as well as national experts giving us education, giving us trainings, and building our capacity into technical design of roads, and also
That's
into
correct.
looking at yeah, also into looking at what are the principles of good design, good road design, and that's where I got my first lessons into designing of streets. So uh, so yes, but it was a voluntary effort from my side. But yes, completing your question, I think it would be a good idea to actually have some street design courses or electives for the landscape architects in the educational curriculum also. I think it will be very, very helpful for us.
Thank you.
Uh, I'll go to the Srinagar experiment in 2018 when we did. So that time I was the advisor there, and we did it with the help of Srinagar Traffic Police, PWD, and the Municipal Corporation together, and also the Education Department. Again, I should go to the big picture. Sorry, I'll just come back to these pictures. Yeah, so this is a plan. A general arrangement of the plan, the long dimension of the plan is around. I mean, not including the street on the left, but only the junction part. The long dimension is around 250 meters or so, 200 or 250 meters or so, and the width is also quite large. It's around 80 meters. So it was a very, very large junction, and you can see that on the bottom of that junction, you can see it's an entry to a hospital gate. It is a very important hospital of Srinagar, very large hospital. It's called Skims, and therefore this chalk is also called Skims chalk sometimes. But actually, this area is Saura. So this is a Saura junction, and again, the task was humongous. It was a huge area to deal with only manually. It was a very difficult task for us. Obviously, the number of people which were engaged also were a little larger in this case. So we wanted to change it to something like this, make it much more safer for pedestrians, actually, because there are a lot of pedestrians here coming to the hospital, crossing over to the hospital, a lot of public transport available in this area. There is, in fact, a public transport depot about on the left, about half a kilometer down the road. And there is a large police station right up front. And there is a huge amount of commercial development in this area. So a very, very busy area, a very important area as well for the pedestrians. And then we started looking at, how we can transform this. So here, Srinagar being a place where we actually, I did not have too much experience earlier. Like Srinagar is a very different place. I was not very sure whether I would get the kind of support I got in other places, but it was amazing. The police and the PWD, they when they heard about this initially, they were not sure about what I was talking about, but then eventually they came with their heart and soul, and it was amazing. It was an amazing collaboration that we had. So this the team that you see on the road are some, like two of the people are from my team, and the rest of the people are actually from PWD and the police who are working with us trying to mark the road. Again, we did not have instruments, but we tried to, take references, long references. So I had like 200-meter ropes to take references from here and there, trying to make the geometry right, trying to make the curves right, because those curves cannot go wrong, and immediately, it is a matter of an accident or something. So it was tough for painting, obviously, because the geometry itself was taking so much time. The painting happened by painters, so we had called some painters. So all of this, you can see how we painted it. So this we did in one night again. So all the others also were done in a single night. And so this is how the junction became. And after that, uh, the amazing moment came when we transformed it. I mean, all the kids of the schools in this area came together to paint that pedestrian space. And it was just, I can't tell you what a happy moment that was. And for all of us, for everybody. And they still have that memory. This actually made this project an immemorable experience. It is kind of etched in our memory for a big long time now, and for all of the people. You can see high energy among students, so such pride, such happiness, and they transformed this public pedestrian space into this. Uh, and you can see the bus bays, and you can still see that the traffic is moving absolutely all right. So we put this into operation for 3 months. Kind of tested it out for various traffic intensities, and it worked very well. And now it has been made into a smart city project, and they have got a sanction of 9 crore rupees to actually implement the way you see it here. So I hope that very soon we'll have a fully implemented junction. But this is like 2 nights transformation. So this is what is possible, by simple paint. And I'll just go. So this is a drone image, the Google Earth image of how it was earlier. This is how we painted it in the night, made all the lines. You can see the bus bays, the pedestrian paths, and then again transformed it like that. Obviously, it also means that it is not a painting project. First of all, it's not a beautification project. First, it has to work for the traffic. It has to work for the pedestrians, and only then you take the next step of even making it better, and making it a better place for people. So it's a two-step process. Uh, Now, with the same method of tactical method, we did a lot of implementation of a parking management system. So we had started this parking management for the city of Srinagar. We started with, because there is a there's a huge need of organizing parking there. There is no parking rule. So we thought that probably by space division, we can start looking at that. And this is MA Road, the main road of Srinagar, very important road, the Maulana Azad Road. And this is how we painted it. We made the drop-off zone, we made the parking zone, and therefore the left of the parking zone is all pedestrian space and the right is the movement space. This worked extremely well. And then, yeah, you can see the ground level picture. This was taken early morning, so you don't see the actual traffic. This is the Polo View Road, again, where the markings actually tell where the parking can be or not be. That also turned out very, very well. It still is working fine. We charge parking now, so the parked vehicles don't actually cross the line. So you see that, once you get a line, obviously before you get the line there, you're always thinking whether the cars will be able to park themselves in such a small space. That is a thought you always get. But this is a good way to test it out. That you draw the line and then you see whether the cars are really parking there, and they are actually. So we never told them, nobody guided them how to do that, but they're doing it. So tactical method is actually a very good way to test out things before you do them permanently. And in 2019, now last year, we did the pedestrianization of Karol Bagh. In Karol Bagh, actually, there was a huge team. We were working with UTPEC. I was working in collaboration with the knowledge partner from MHA, my colleagues Paromita Roy and Sameer Sharma, and also with the PWD, the North NCD, UTPEC, Delhi Traffic Police. All of them played a very important part in actually implementing this. Now, very happy to say that the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has actually now come up with a advisory on how to pedestrianize marketplaces based on what we did in Karol Bagh last year. Karol Bagh was like this earlier, and heavily congested. You can see parked vehicles all the time, and it was a nightmare for pedestrians, simply a nightmare. And this is how it was initially. And so we were engaged in a lot of consultations with the local stakeholders. This was, I would say, one of the most important part of implementing this project, because one of the important things is to always be in good communication with them, and to take their ideas on each and everything. So obviously the direction was set by us, that how to go about it. And this was a project which was actually designed in 2009 2010, and that time that the honorable LG Saab actually gave the approval of doing this project, but for whatever reason this project did not take off. And we thought that probably because we were looking at, as I told you, that we were in the ministry trying to help the Ministry of Home Affairs trying to implement sustainable mobility projects. So we thought that probably we should take this up again, not shelf it, and try to implement it. And then we got the teams together, and we again went into a very extensive consultation process with the stakeholders, and many meetings were held. After those meetings, we started procuring material. Everything was procured, and then it was a one-night thing, one-night transformation that happened for 1 kilometer, half a kilometer of street, about 600 meters. We implemented first. We put the pots, put the plants, the lines you can see at the junctions. We put the bollards, as you can see. So about 40-50 people got working in a single night, and the next day was completely transformational for everybody. Literally taken them by surprise. So this road, which was earlier like this, got converted to something like that. And this is how it was earlier, and this is how it is now. And the main joy was with the benches. So if you see this, the first day, we could not get the benches in the first day. It took us 2 more days to get the benches in. So when we got the benches in, and that's when, you see people actually enjoying that space, sitting around, having an ice cream, having a juice, such an amazing picture this is. Was it possible before? That's the question to be asked. Again, this is a Karol Bagh metro station, as you know, very important. The number of people coming in every day is 31,000, one of the highest in used to be. And this is how it is transformed. So making it a space where the vehicles are aware that this is a space where they are crossing the pedestrians. So maybe, that awareness is important. So we kind of paint it in a way that, everybody gets aware that you're crossing a pedestrian space, and therefore one becomes more careful. Now they have also installed a traffic light here, a pedestrian traffic light. And this is the public space right next to the metro station. We now call it the Karol Bagh Plaza. They've given it a new name. Well, this is not plaza-like at all. You can see a lot of vehicles which are pickup vehicles, and they want to be kind of occupying that space all the time. And you can see how many people are there. And it was, again, not a very happy place for any of them. Not that they should not be there, but it is not a happy way of being there. So it's very congested, and this is how we transformed it very simply by giving the rickshaws, you can say, some dignity, because even they want some dignity, some space where they can operate in peace. Not like anybody telling them not to stand here, not to stand there. So they have their own space. They kind of queue up, work in a proper manner, and the rest of the space is all pedestrian. And my colleague Paromita, she actually, did a very innovative thing of hanging those cloth pieces across. And it was a very difficult thing she did, but it looked very nice. And so it was just very creative to kind of look at how a simple space can be transformed by simple elements, nothing major. It's all very cheap in a way, cheap in terms of money. And we started marking spots for cars and vehicles. Now there's parallel parking. You can see that it was very difficult. This was one of the most difficult aspects of this, of the rest of the roads, because only Ajmal Khan Road was pedestrianized. The rest of the roads were not pedestrianized. But we had to get the parking sorted in the rest of the roads, because if your parking is not sorted, again, your roads are congested. And so it's not a happy experience. So then the important task was actually to sort out the parking. The North DMC actually passed a parking policy where they doubled the parking rates on the street. And that's what you see on the left side. You see the parking rates. And this is how the vehicles are now queuing up in the parking bay. It's a parallel parking now. So this space, which is on the junction, now is like this. Again, this also has a story. Everything in Karol Bagh has a story. There were a lot of vehicles here. They made a court case on us that, you're removing us. We are here for 40 years. The courts asked them to get lost. We won the case. And now this is a public space. But we had to go through those pains, So we did not deter. I mean, that court case did not deter all of us from implementing it. So we could have just shut down this project, one court case and the project shuts down. No. I mean, if you're doing the right thing, even the court recognizes that. And this is article. So many articles came. In fact, nobody had in fact informed the media. Media came to know only after 3-4 days of our intervention. So they were pretty shocked. And after that, it was like a flurry of positive articles, great articles. Then obviously we, more things can be, once you have this space available for pedestrians, then you can think of many things. Once you have the space, till the time you don't have space, you can't do anything. So then we did the Ajmal Khan Street Art Festival, where again, 800 students came to paint the Ajmal Khan Road. And this is what they did. Amazing. It was an amazing day. And it was such fun. Eventually, the golf carts came in. There is no golf track here. But the golf carts came in because now the space was being used by pedestrians. And the golf carts is to facilitate old and the ones who are in need. Sometimes you are with heavy bags, so you can actually take a golf cart and go from shopping to the parking. These are the pictures of the golf carts. Again, maintained by the Traders Federation. And then this was the big event which also happened, which is kind of a, you can say it's an announcement of some sort. It's an announcement that this place is safe for everyone, for girls particularly. So, and that announcement was made with the help of an event which lasted for 2-3 days, and it was called Step Out at Night. Girls, and we put girls in front. So girls step out at night, and there was these, all these. A lot of events took place in those evenings, and all of them were um, by ladies, by girls, and a lot of artists came, a lot of painters came, stand-up comedians came, and it was just a very happy moment for all of the people, and lot of girls and ladies from women folk from the nearby areas came to participate in this. And it was basically, as announcement of sorts that the space doesn't just belong to men, it belongs to women equally, and they should take over and not sit late night at home, but you can actually venture out at night. So it's absolutely okay to do that. So these were the media articles later, and then the commissioner of North MCD, she presented in the Urban Mobility India conference, Varsha Joshi, and then eventually they won the award, the best NMT award also. Anyways, so the point is that all of this, how was it implemented? So how to do it? So the first thing is that there has to be a clear leadership and a clear direction from the top. The administration has to be bought in. Unless and until the administration is bought in, it's very difficult to kind of do it. So pure, like it's difficult to scale it up, even to scale it up. So first is that the leadership from the top. So you have to do a lot of convincing, obviously, but it's good to do that and get them on board. Then obviously you have to get your technical leaders in. So first is the administration leaders who just give you okay to do that, but the technical leaders have to be brought in so that they actually start to make the strategy and give a strategy of implementation, of planning, implementation, and rollout. So you've got to get your technical leaders also in place. Well, in the example that you saw, I was a technical leader, and some of my partners were technical leaders with me. But in many other cases where there have been doing in other places of the country, there always have been a technical partner. Like in Coimbatore recently, the GIZ was a technical partner. ITDP has been technical partners. The WRI has been technical partners at various places. So some technical partner is required who understands urban space, who understands urban design, and who can lead this event. It should not be left only to the government to do that. It is not about leaving to the government. Actually, I'll correct myself. I'm sorry. It's about like even in the government there are technical leaders. So you've got to get your technical leaders, whether inside the government or outside, to actually lead this show. And then these are the people who would set the goal, vision, and strategy to implement. And then is to get the material in based on the strategy. You get your local stakeholders to partner with you, and you form something like a WhatsApp group, which kind of gets everybody in the same kind of dialogue, and therefore you can have a very close coordination with all sectors and implement this, because you need people to kind of get it all together. And when you have all this fourth together, the last and not the least is hard work, and that's just a one night show. So you kind of do this entire implementation in a single night and then open it up next day. What you saw earlier in Ahmedabad was a junction, a small junction. Srinagar was a little bigger junction, and the Karol Bagh was a 1 kilometer street. So all of this in each example was done in a single night. So you can, in fact, if you get more hands to work with you, we can actually implement a lot of it together in a single night or 2 nights together. So that is the whole fun of this, of doing this in this way. Um, for Delhi, we were thinking about, you have different zones in Delhi, so we can do it simultaneously by engaging more and more people together. So you have this like an intervention site. This is again we did in Kamla Nagar market. This is done. So tactical implementation time per site. Generally, it requires about a week time to organize. A planning time of about 1 month or maybe a little more than that. Preparation time, sometimes you need preparation time in case of Karol Bagh was only about 10 days or so. So not a very long time we took there. But if you're doing a lot of sites together, maybe the preparation time can go a little bigger. But the implementation time is probably just 1 day, 1 night, or 2 nights at the max, and 1 week because you sometimes your manpower, monitoring manpower takes some time to come to start monitoring the project. So that's why I've said it as 1 week. So if you're doing a large city, let's say we are doing Delhi, like we're doing multiple zones, it can take up to 4 months to completely implement it. 4 months meaning total time taking 4 months. Obviously, the implementation time is only 1 week. But in case of Karol Bagh, we actually got it. The preparation time you can say was about a month or so, and the implementation time was 2 nights. So you can say about one, and that's how you can even implement cycle tracks. This is one cycle track in Diu, Union Territory of Diu, which again is nothing but paint and bollards. And generally it costed around 12 lakhs per kilometer. So that's generally the budget which is required if you're using a lot of bollards. The most expensive item in this entire intervention is the bollard, because one bollard costs, a good quality bollard costs around somewhere between 700 rupees to 1100 rupees depending on quality. So that's the most expensive item. Other things are not as expensive actually. Obviously, the manpower comes free most of the time because people volunteer. But sometimes, if you're hiring painters, you might have to pay for painters. So this is the general broad budgetary provision that one needs to make. So you know that if you're doing a 1 kilometer street, roughly about 12 lakh rupees is what you might need, depending on design, obviously. Yeah, so that's the full implementation. So I was thinking that in case Isola wants to take it up as the technical partner, so we can actually team up with the PWD or MCD or the MOHUA, and we can also get various CSO, civil society organizations, academic institutions, individuals, urban design or landscape design firms, locals to participate with us, and depending on how we do our outreach on a particular project area, and actually do this for the city. And roughly, this is the kind of role which comes across as we, the role of the government is providing leadership. The role of Isola would be to actually create this entire environment, create the plan, and create that strategy of implementation. Also getting the people together and then monitoring it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. So I think what we will do now is we have a few questions that we have received on the chat box here. We will take one by one, and then I'll hand it over to Aditya for further discussions. The first question.
Okay.
Yeah. So in case, yes, sorry, Aditya, you can.
Just announce the names of the people so they know which order you're going to take them in. So you can say it out now, and then they can prepare for their turn.
Right. So there's a first question would be from Sujata Indorani. The second would be from Asta Singh. And third, Aditya, you also have a question. So you can take the third one.
Shanta also had a question.
Prashanta. Yeah. So maybe after Astha, Prashanta, and then you can take the question. So we start in this order. Then if there are many more questions, then we'll go ahead.
Asta, please unmute yourself and please ask your question.
This is me, Sujata. Hi. Hi, Anuj. This was very informative. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask the whatever 12 lakh budget or whatever you had said.
Yes,
So
yes,
you have
I
to
can
take
hear you. Thanks.
a special permission from the government. Who pays for it? The agency, MCD, or whoever pays for it. Like it's like a short-term thing. Generally, they have to get approval for budgets and all. Because it's a small budget, that is why it's easy to get this kind of this thing budget to be approved fast.
Yes. So, obviously, this is one of the most important questions, because in case any of us wants to do it, then money is definitely the question to be answered. So in all of these cases, the money did come from the government. And because, in fact, it didn't come as money. It came as material. This material mostly lies in their stores. It's not something that they procure separately. And like the commissioner has a certain thing, all of their powers to procure certain materials if they are getting short, and actually get this there. So there are various, and sometimes they're doing road projects. They can get it out of some project. So actually, government has many ways of getting it. So not necessarily this amount. I just made it as we never collected money or asked the government to give money. We only gave them a list, like this is the material that we want, and then they provided the material. So in all of these cases, it is the government who gave everything.
Hi, my name is Astha, and first of all, I would like to thank you for this very interesting presentation. Uh, I have been interested in tactical urbanism for a while now. I've been reading a lot of papers, and this was very informative in the sense that I had no idea that projects like this were happening in India as well, and it's great to know that. So thank you for this. So I have three questions for you actually.
Okay.
First of all, my first, it's more of an observation, I guess. But to me, tactical urbanism has been is basically about accounting for people or for things that modern planning tends to disenfranchise. The section of society, for example, pedestrians. It's not something that is thought of very carefully in modern planning, or let's say informal modes of transport like shared autos or even rickshaws and everything. So for me, this is one of the biggest paradox of tactical urbanism, where you know this the whole initiative is coming from the institution, from the tradition, from the institution of town planning or urban planning, whereas tactical urbanism for me is also about fighting or resisting that their rules and the I guess, for the lack of a better word, I'll go back to rules and formulas that modern planning follows. So what are some of the strategies that you use to ensure that you are being truly democratic, in the sense that even if the government is not account, for example, when you talked about your Karol Bagh project and the juice vendors, was it really truly democratic in the sense that these people had to be removed from an existing setting where we don't, I mean, I don't know if you did any sort of analysis to understand whether people actually need that juice guy over there or not. So, and that brings me to my second question, where how much of your intervention, the nature of your intervention, is informed by interacting with the users, people who use that space. So you did talk to stakeholders in Karol Bagh, but were you also talking to metro users, or other people who walk around in that area, who actually use that area, and what is it that they need? Do they want vehicles to come there? Do they want complete pedestrianization, things like that? Actually, I think I covered both my questions in these two things, so that's it.
Okay. Uh, Interesting question. I didn't really get your first question, but I'll try to start my answer with the second one, and let me see whether if I can cover the first one also. Uh, See, there is no method right if it is not done through interviews and not by getting people's views. So you can't really do that. You can't really do a project of this nature if the people are not part of it.
Right.
It's impossible, I would say. It's just impossible. Like, for example, we started doing the Kamla Nagar project, and well, why Kamla Nagar? I'll just talk about Karol Bagh. So, like doing the Karol Bagh project, the plan is there. You can download the plan any day. It's on the UTPEC website. Okay, but the plan is, first, you can't make a plan like that unless the locals are on board with such a plan, first of all. And the second thing is that when you start implementing it, such a plan, is when the finer details kick in and the realizations kick in, even in the stakeholders, that how is it going to get transformed and how our lives are now going to get changed. So that realization only kicks in at the time of implementation. In fact, even at the time of planning, it doesn't kick in so much, so hard. It does kick in for some people, but doesn't kick in for everybody. So, so in case we are not talking to them, or in case their views are not being part of our implementation process, then you can be sure that we will be stopped in the night. Our JCBs will be turned back, and we'll be asked to leave the place very politely. And that happens. I'm not joking. I mean, this is what happens on the site. So that's a polite way of turning you away. But so, having said that, my point being that it's actually impossible to even conceive implementing such project without people being part of it. So that's number one. It's a given. And obviously, these interviews really help a lot. And all of these interviews were conducted multiple times. It's not like once. It's not a formality. It's a, if you believe in the process, you would want to get some of your questions answered by these interviews. Whether the people want to go straight, do they want to take a diagonal, do they want to stop here for some time, what do they want, and how can we make it possible? So, those answers are very important to actually get your implementation right. So in fact, if you're blocking off some place where people actually want to be, and you're trying to create a path which you like, but the people don't really use it, it's actually going to go waste completely. And on the second day, you will feel that, something is not working. So these interviews have actually helped a lot. Interview. Sorry, I got interrupted. So I'll just continue. So yes, when we are talking about stakeholders, we don't mean the stakeholders who come in a car. The stakeholders are everybody who belongs to that place, even the vendors, even the Teh Bazari, the metro users, all of them are stakeholders. So it's not about, just doing a kind of a wishy-washy thing, talking to some of the shopkeepers and that's it. No, that's not the way. Everybody has a part. So yes, we did talk to everybody. In fact, one of the most strong supporters of this place of urban planning has been the people of the Teh Bazari, of the vendors. They've actually strongly supported us. And Metro users, just to say a little more, metro users actually don't really have an opinion beyond the fact that uh, they want to reach the metro early, like fast, you know.
Right.
So you better clear off from their path. That's the most important thing for them. So we cleared off from their path. We never we actually cleared all the obstructions from their path and made their path a little more smoother for them. So they were happy. And obviously, when you get out of the metro station, it is good idea to actually find a few vendors, and you can actually drink a glass of water or get a quick cup of whatever and get a quick bite sometimes. So it's good to have vendors near the metro station. So in fact, there was another effort of putting the vendors near the metro stations, which we also carried out after a month of implementing this. So nearly around 7 or 8 metro stations were again kind of identified, and a vending plan for each of those metro stations was actually made, and an effort was made to get the vendors to actually occupy that place, because metro stations where the people are and vendors are happy also.
Right. So then it becomes a bigger process, where a twofold process, where the first is essentially about interacting with people and understanding what is actually required of the space, and then the second part becomes then about ideating how to implement all those, how to bring in all those requirements.
Yes, and obviously you have to strike a balance, because there are things which the government is able to do, they are not able to do, and there are things which the stakeholders expect and we are not able to provide. So we have to play that very important balancing. You know, we are not just a design professional there. We are people who moderate, who kind of negotiate, and kind of find the middle path for all of them to exist together and be happy about it. So we are not just playing a part of being a designer. So that is a very important aspect to be understood.
Because actually that kind of
Okay.
answers my, sorry.
So can we take Prashanta's question and then followed by Priyanka's question?
Yeah. So,
Thank
Anuj, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think what was one of the other things must have been also that the noise pollution must have come down drastically in these
Oh,
areas.
absolutely.
But my question is actually about, in a country like India where, chaos is what, we thrive on. And I think it was the Karol Bagh project where, one side was pedestrianized, the other side had vehicular traffic. And was there any kind of resistance from those shopkeepers who got the vehicles as opposed to the pedestrians? And I mean, is this the greatest good for the greatest number? Sorry?
Sorry, I didn't get your question right. Is that you're saying that resistance from the people having vehicles?
Yeah, the shopkeepers on the other side who got the vehicles, whereas one side got more the pedestrians. And so is this a solution where it's the greatest good for the greatest number? I mean, in the sense that I'm sure when there was chaos, the shopkeepers got an equal division of footfalls or whatever you want to call it. So
Interesting. Okay, so I would really encourage everybody to download this presentation from the UTPEG website on the Karol Bagh. It actually has initial slides which talk about the surveys which were done and what numbers were found out as to the number of pedestrians and the number of vehicles in that place. So without any exaggeration, 96% of the people occupying that space were pedestrians and 4% were vehicles. And that 4% vehicles were actually occupying 36% of space. So that was number one. So there was nothing that we did which was out of the box in a way. Okay. So this was a natural phenomena which was already occurring there. It was only strengthened by us, nothing more than that. Second, nothing was done without the consent of the stakeholder. So the shopkeepers over there, they were actually very happy and they were with us on this project. Even now, at the time of pandemic, where the public transport is not available, and unfortunately, we have to allow a few vehicles to enter. the shopkeepers are again not calling me and calling all of us saying that, when that it's so unfortunate that we have to get the vehicles in, but we hope that the public transport can again begin, and we can stop them again. So, it's like a daily realization for them that again the mess has started, and we were so peaceful after the pedestrianization happened. So, pedestrianization of Karol Bagh was not our idea; it was the idea of the stakeholders, and it was the idea of the government facilitating what the stakeholders also felt like, and the numbers supported that. There's nothing that we did was like, sometimes, you kind of push a pedestrianization project and it fails. It fails because you haven't really got your numbers right, or you haven't got your stakeholders' opinion right. Now, Lajpat Nagar, you would remember that soon after Karol Bagh kicked in, it was a sudden flurry of pedestrianizing shops, pedestrianizing commercial centers. And Lajpat Nagar came for us that, again, the Lajpat Nagar community came that, okay, we want to pedestrianize. And we said no to them. I said that because Lajpat Nagar, that road in the Lajpat Nagar, sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the Gandhi Road. Sorry, forgetting the name. Uh, yeah, the road on the Karol Bagh on which the Lajpat Nagar market is. So that road actually is a very strong connector between 2 points, and there is no other road available. While in Karol Bagh, there's a road every 60 meters or 80 meters which is available. It's a parallel grid. It's a very fine grid, and therefore, if you block off one of the grid, you can always take the next road. So some things are possible because of what was there in Karol Bagh. If it was a case of Lajpat Nagar, we would not have been able to do it because there are no parallel streets. Okay, so Lajpat Nagar, we straight away refused that. No, this is not a pedestrianization project for Lajpat Nagar. You can improve walkability for sure, but not pedestrianize it. So that's the difference I'm trying to say. But so since it was done with consent of the stakeholders, there is no way that they are happy and the others are not happy. I mean, I think that question should be to the stakeholders and not to me, because only they can answer that question. Because if it is done by their consent, obviously they would be happy. Sorry, have I answered your question? I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Priyanka, Priyanka Sarkar, can you turn on your mic and ask your question? Aditya, can you do it for her in case she's facing some problem? Aditya, you will have to do it. I think she's unable to turn on her mic.
That she's not able to.
Yeah. Okay. Meanwhile, I guess there are a lot of appreciations on your effort, Anuj, and like what we earlier mentioned, that Isola being as a technical partner, though had this not been a COVID situation, that was the next task, that we all come together and pick up an area and get engaged in this kind of development in the city. So
Right.
then, yeah. So most likely later this year we can continue to think on this thought, and I hope you continue to encourage us.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to end with a small remark.
I think
Hello.
Priyanka is here. Yeah, we can take her
Okay,
question and
sure.
then probably.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anuj sir, it was a really informative presentation. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask you, in that Srinagar project where your transformation was clearing off the, parking just adjacent to the structure, and then you have your parallel parking. Next to that, you have your pedestrian, and then there's the main street. So I wanted to understand if there is a maintenance plan that you give out after the project is executed, because there is, parallel parking especially is very difficult to manage once there is no regulation when it's done.
Mm-hmm. So some things are done through road geometry and some things are done by management. So
Okay.
one thing, so by road geometry, we have to ensure that while designing the street, it is designed in such a manner that parallel parking is the only condition possible. Okay, which means
Okay.
that one has to design taking the traffic into account and also taking into account the public space which is available and designing in such a manner that you don't have extra space for actually doing a perpendicular parking. So that's number one, which we have to take into account. The second thing is that as you saw that I had shown additional slides of parking management
Mm.
after that Srinagar intervention. So parking management was something which we started parallelly because yes, you are absolutely right that it is not just about design, it is also about management. And in case the parking management is not done right, then there are chances that people may not be willing to kind of follow rules or take their in their own manner. So yes, parking management is an important thing, and we did that simultaneously. And this is the lesson for all the other government agencies as well. That this project, these kind of projects, they have to to for them to live on. They need a little extra. They need a little extra. They need some management system also, so that they can be sustained over a long period of time. So the sooner you can get your management system in place, the better it is. Obviously, sometimes people delay, but when you are designing a program, it is better to design holistically so that the government knows right from the start that there is a management system also to be made available. So that is about the management system that we did. But essentially, if you're talking about management of the material and of the space, it's a general regular work for municipal corporations that doesn't really need something out of the box thing. Parking does need that profile. Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Thank you,
much.
Anuj. Yeah. Thank you, Anuj. Anuj, there's one important question coming up from, I think that would be the last. Do we have time for that?
Sure.
It's from
Yes.
Smriti
Yes.
Sood.
I also want to ask some questions.
Okay, so post Smriti's question, we will take Aditya's, and
right.
then you can take it.
Can't refuse Aditya.
Yeah. Yeah, Smriti, over to you.
Yeah, hi Anuj.
Hi.
It's really informative, and I've been working on smart city projects from last 2 years, and
All
I've
right.
been working on urban roads only. I'm a landscape architect, so it's
Excellent.
really good to know that these kind of projects are going on. But my question is that what is the life of these? Like you have been doing this painting technique, so how long does it go? And do you think that it is good to do these kind of projects rather than doing the permanent road design?
Uh, so your answer to the question is no. uh, this is just a step. Okay.
Okay.
Now, how does tactical method help? Is only to test that what you have planned actually is okay. Because in the tactical method you are able to make changes. You can alter dimensions. I could have shown you one of the slides in Srinagar where I designed the traffic intersection where I did the circle thrice. Actually, you can see the old lines as well. So in a matter of 1 week I made the circle thrice, and you could see the other two lines as well as how it changed. And it changed because we were not able to get the circle right It was not a circle in the end. It became an oval in the end. So it depends, you know. And if I had just made it into a contract, I could have never done it. But it was through this tactical method that I could have tested it, and then I could see whether it is working for the purpose it is meant to. So this is the advantage of doing the tactical way. Of course, it doesn't take away absolutely from building infrastructure. It is just a step step in front of the building infrastructure. Like I'll take a example of Chandni Chowk street. You know about the Chandni Chowk street. It's under implementation for the last 2-3 years. Now, as a part to the Karol Bagh, not to take away anything from the Chandni Chowk project, but just to mention that the Chandni Chowk project, uh, people still don't know what they are going to get after the project is implemented. But in Karol Bagh project, when the project gets implemented, people already know what they are going to get after it is implemented fully. So that's a very big difference, because at the time of implementation, people will give their full support of getting it done. That you don't see in Chandni Chowk. The Chandni Chowk, the traders are absolutely angry with the government, and you can read about it on a daily basis. Not in Karol Bagh. Karol Bagh, the tender for implementation is out. 18 kilometers of streets are being done, not just Ajmal Khan Road, but all the roads together. I'm talking to PWD on a daily basis. They've already started implementation of other roads, and they're soon going to now dig up Ajmal Khan. They will not face any trouble when they dig up Ajmal Khan, because people already know that, and they're probably waiting for it. So that's the difference.
So I think it could be a like good method to test or to check whether that design could be implemented or not, and how it will respond. So it could be a good method for that.
Exactly, and that's in this kind of method, people know that this is not a permanent thing, so they can advise, they can tell you, they can opine, and then you can probably make changes or make them understand whatever. So then it's kind of more democratic in a way of exchanging ideas. So this gives you that kind of freedom.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I'll ask my questions, Anuj.
Sure.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation. This was just so interesting, and it was just a delight to know all the things that you've been doing, and it's so inspiring. And I have a couple of thoughts. One is that I noticed that the markings that were being used in in Srinagar were following the UK markings that I'm familiar with from the UK Manual of Streets. Is there such a similar manual in India? Is there such a need for one? Can that be driven? Is there already one? I'm not aware of it.
There is. It's actually done by UTPEC. It's called the UTPEC Street Design Manual. It's available on the website of UTPEC and downloadable. This
is used by engineers now in different cities, and is it being followed? Does it have
generally it is being followed in Delhi by all the agencies. I'm not sure about other agencies in other cities, but I know that for Bangalore, they have their own document. It's called the Tender Show document. For Chennai, they again have another document by which I think they call it the Street Design Manual. In Pune, they have one document. It's called the Street Design Guidelines for Pune. So these 4 cities do have their own documents. And other cities are also trying to get their own document. But more or less, they're kind of.
Is there a need for a national one that would then unify what our country looks like and behave?
Sorry to interrupt, but there is Indian IRC guidelines are there. So in smart cities, we have those guidelines. So accordingly, we are designing the roads as per IRC guidelines. For everything,
it's called it's called the Indian Road Congress. And in
actually, I want to add here, the IRC urban roads guidelines still has not come. Anuj, you may elaborate on that, where the lane widths and everything have been reduced. Has it come as yet? Because otherwise we follow the MOUD guidelines to follow the lane width and all of those things also. So that's also a very good document.
Exactly. Sujata here has actually done more roads in her life than I have actually done any So she is right, absolutely. We are following the MOUD guidelines, but in IRC, in fact, we have recently done last year. It was published. It's called the Landscape Manual, and it is written by. I'm actually one of the co-authors. Sujata is one of the co-authors. Nidhi Madan is one of the co-authors. Paramita Roy is one of the co-authors. So we have kind of contributed to writing that landscape manual. You please, I would really encourage everybody to download that manual, maybe buy it. It's called 103 SP 103 2019. So kindly do download that landscape manual. It has all the things that we talk about. It is written by professionals. It is a landscape architect. So it has all the things that we talk about. Also, it talks about a little bit on how to design the roads. A little bit on that, not too much. But there are other manuals which give you those codes, those codal guidelines.
We are going to do an ISOLA event on streetscape as well. This is on tactical urbanism. But I just want to ask a few more questions. One is the hot topic of pedestrianization of CP. Are you in favor of that? And do you think that it can be sort of unfolded through tactical urbanism currently? Or what is your thoughts on the pedestrianization of CP?
You're putting me on the line.
I know Anuj has some thoughts.
I'll tell you, I happen to be on an association with landowner, and I'm one of them trying to persuade my other friends to say that we should create open spaces, like outdoor eating areas, and transform CP into a different brand. And I'm just wondering, is there a possibility to really change the nature of CP using these methods?
See, I think this method is not a big deal. So let's not talk about the method here. I think the big deal is about understanding what that place requires. So if we are clear about, if we have identified the problem right, and if we are clear about what that place requires, then what method you take to implement is actually just your comfort level and government's comfort level. So it could be done tactical way, it could be done any other way anyways. So the point is that what we want to do there is something that we want to kind of first understand what the CP actually requires, So if you look at, I can just give you some broad things that I have been thinking about on CP. Not really, please don't take it as something, but it's just my personal opinion. Like CP actually has a very good pedestrian environment in a way, because you see the arcade of CP, it's actually it's very comfortable to walk even in a very hot summer.
Right.
But the things that don't work in CP is the extra parking which you see all the time, and which crossing of the roads. So crossing of the road, they have actually done tabletops and they've tried to make it better, but I think it's still a little way that it is absolutely comfortable. So but completely pedestrianizing it, I'm not very sure about that. Because CP does not have so many shop fronts to talk about. There is only one shop front to talk about, which is on the inner circle. In the middle circle, you have some of the shop fronts, but actually it is right now functioning as a back alley. But let's say if we were to kind of trying to transform the middle circle, then the middle circle actually has that potential to get transformed. Yes, it has that, because you have buildings on both the sides. So pedestrians would actually find it very interesting to shop on both the sides and actually be there. So that's really an interesting thing. Again, on the outer circle, you have the same phenomena as the inner circle. So, so what you require there is something that we need to understand by being there and actually visiting it and walking that space, and then kind to decide as to what is going to be the future. But yes, CP complete pedestrianization, I'm not very sure about that.
Fair enough, but it's a good, interesting observation that the central circle has the most potential, and it's a redundancy. It's actually a redundant road, because there are already two roads parallel to it, and so has the. Now, my other questions were that that there were two interesting points you made about that streetscape design should be taught in landscape programs and also that I think I can add one more, which is stakeholder input, public participation. So that's not taught in our schools here. And I think those two subjects, they can be taught as separate subjects. I would like to explore with you separately and,
Sure.
how those two could be moved in. And then just
Yeah.
closing, I just want to, actually I had one question, which is a very particular question. You had one wide stripe and one narrow stripe, I noticed, Rollbug. You painted the white stripes, some wide ones and some narrow ones.
Ah, okay. In the pedestrian crossing you're talking about.
Yeah, just to make it more interactive, or what was the? What
Yeah,
was?
just that. Just that.
Just that. Okay. I thought maybe
Yeah, nothing. No, nothing. I just painted a piano.
Okay. Okay. So one question I think now is, as we close, we at closing time. It was just this wonderful session. What I want to know is, what are our next steps to become, as you said, Isola could become one of the, put its weight behind you. We would like to see you, and of course, there's Sujata and other people as our leaders. We want to form a group now. Just we should move forward rather than think about whether Isola can do it or not. Isola Delhi is behind you. You tell us what you need. Do we need to? What are the next steps for us to? Do we need to identify sites? Do we need to group? What is it that we? What are the plannings that we need to do to move into into a sort of implementation stage of our effort helping you?
Sure. So I think it is not about helping me, rather it is me helping Isola. It's the other way around. Because Isola is an institution, I am just an individual. An institution has much more power than an individual. So I would really encourage that we as an institution can partner with the government, and we can propose from our efforts also what we think right, and or we can ask the government what they want, which area they want, and we can partner with them, give them knowledge, and try to implement with their help and support some of the areas, and actually get our institution of Isola, our landscape architects, to participate fully, wholeheartedly in that. Like open it up for all of us, open it up for even SPA or other institutions who would want to partner with Isola, and actually Isola taking the leadership. So I would, if there is anything like that, I would be very happy to be part of it, and lead any talk if it is required. I can lead those talks also, or I can at least facilitate these meetings if I am able to. So I would be happy to do that.
Our next step is to form a group, and we all discuss this subject with you. Is that, shall we do that? There's a
Sure.
number.
Yeah.
30 people attend today. We can ask them if they'd like to be part of a subgroup, and we can form a subgroup, and then we can plan and see what are the sites we think are the most interesting, who are the other people we'd like to partner with, like SPA and all that, and try to come up with an action plan. Is that a good idea to do next?
Absolutely. I think there is the SPA, you have the Institute of Urban Designers also. So, I think when we want to do something good, I think we will get more and more hands and feet to work with us. So, yes, you're right. We can move ahead with that.
We're going to move. That's our next step. Definitely, we're going to move ahead with that. And then next 2 weeks from now, no, next week, right? You're going to have another talk with us and explain things to us a little bit more on some other.
Sure.
Are you going to talk about decongestion planning at all, or is that another subject altogether?
So we had, in fact, planned for a site visit, but I'm not very sure about whether we can do the site visit. So in case we can modify that event to be a little broader as a street planning event, then I think I could do a joint presentation with Sujata, or Sujata can do a joint presentation with me, or whichever way it works. But I think it's good to, since we have started discussing, so to speak, urban space, I think we should do a little more sessions on them. Because we need to explore urban space in a little more dimensions, and how landscape architects have contributed to urban space, design and planning. So I think we should, if possible, not just one more session. I think there should be 2 more sessions so that we can completely explore the urban space dimension.
I'm happy. Let's continue that this month. And what we would like to do is, I would like us to have one brainstorming session where we create a list of the potential spaces that all of us, because many more people will have different ideas. So if we could all contribute in one session to the various spaces they know of, and maybe we can even ask people to come to the meeting with an aerial shot of their space they think needs this kind of, and there can be a discussion. It can be more like an open discussion platform. If you
Sure.
suggest next week you follow what you're doing, then maybe we'll follow one where we start having this discussion on where are the potential spaces in Delhi that could use with this use the help of this intervention. Fair enough?
Sure. Absolutely. I just want to have a closing remark, just something that I wanted to share. So about two years back when I went to the city of Austin, is what I saw that I kind of interacted with their street planning department, and I was so happy to find out that their street planning department is actually headed by a landscape architect for the city of Austin. So actually, in fact, and in a lot of areas, actually, landscape architects are getting there out, designing public space very actively and actually contributing to it. So I would, really encourage all of us that we kind of, get it there. Um, and contribute as much as we can, because we have this amazing ability to understand external space and also to understand plant life. So nothing better than a landscape architect can actually contribute to designing. So I think that is something that I would like to say in the end.
Fantastic.
All
So
right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here and giving us your valuable time and insights. And thank you everyone here for participating. I'm really happy to see so many ISOLA members, Delhi members participating in this session. And really, really happy to be here with you, Anuj. And we look forward to a month of learning with you. So we're going to have a few more sessions with you, okay?
Sure.
And I'll say this to all the members here. Please ask your friends or other landscape architects that you know. Please ask them to join these sessions. Please ask them to come. Please participate and become part of an active group.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anuj. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.